Gather round, noble guests of our esteemed and resplendent court, under the moonlit sky that bathes our banquet hall in an ethereal glow. Our king, Ushoran, the savior of Shyish, the Carrion king himself, bids thee welcome to a feast of unparalleled splendor and magnificence. Behold the tables laden with dishes so divine, their aroma weaving through the air like the enchanting melodies of our court's minstrels. Each platter, a testament to the boundless generosity and peerless taste of our sovereign, promises a culinary journey fit for the exalted lineage of our court. Ah, but what is this? A flicker of doubt, a shadow of revulsion upon thy visages? Nay, do not avert thine eyes, dear guests. What may seem amiss is but a veil of mundanity, yearning to be lifted by the enlightened. These sumptuous offerings before thee are not what the uninitiated perceive. Every morsel a gourmet delight, sourced from realms far and wide, prepared with the most sacred of methods known only to our illustrious chefs. I, Quillspite the Everscribe, implore thee, partake in this feast with hearts wide open. Let not the whispers of the unenlightened taint your perception. For what is grandeur if not recognized by the connoisseur's eye? What is nobility if not embraced by those with the soul to comprehend its true essence? As we await the grand arrival of our liege, Lord Ushoran, let this feast serve as a prelude to the tales of valor and magnificence that shall unfurl this eve. Watch closely, for among the revelry and the rapture, truth and enlightenment await those brave enough to seek it. So, dear guests, I bid thee, dig in, for tonight we dine not merely on sustenance, but on the very essence of nobility that courses through the veins of our court. Let each bite draw you closer to the glorious reality of our existence, as I, your humble chronicler, weave for you the tale of Ushoran, our eternal king, whose valor and virtue eclipse the very stars that canopy our banquet. Come, let us feast, for in feasting we embrace the truth of our noble condition, and in truth we find the path to our magnificent destiny under the reign of the Carrion king. Ah, noble listeners, draw closer to the flickering light of our court's grand hearth, for the tale I weave this eve is one of grandeur and woe, a saga that dances upon the edge of madness and divinity. Hearken to the story of Ushoran, our Carrion king, whose legacy is etched in the marrow of our very bones. In days yore, when Shyish lay under the somber gaze of Nagash, 3 champions were summoned to enact the will of the undying king. Among these paragons of undeath stood Ushoran, the Bold, a figure of such resplendent sovereignty that the mortal gaze found in him a liege of unparalleled majesty. He was the Mortarch of Delusion, a herald of dignity in death, whose oath was to shield the cycle of mortality from defilement. Mortals from far and wide laid down their blood as tribute, not in fear, but adulation, scattering grave roses before his steps, crafting weapons of gassed silver in his honor. Ushoran, donned in the mirrored crown of regal bone bestowed by Nagash, attracted souls of valor to his court. Among them were Marquise Grusippa, First Knight Marboth, the Steward Livbelse, each united by the bond of blood, kin in spirit to Ushoran more than any other lineage under the darkened sky of Shyish. But darkness loomed on the horizon. Reports of thieves plundering sacred grave sand from the summer court reached Ushoran's ears. With the heavy heart of duty, he proclaimed to his courtiers his intent to confront this threat, embarking on a quest to the far lands where death magic swirled unchecked. "Drink with me, as proof of this vow," he bade them, and drink they did from his chalice, sealing a pact of eternal fealty. Alas, upon his return, Ushoran was not the sovereign who had left. Madness had taken him, his noble visage twisted by delirious rage. He waged war upon his own, his once noble thirst, now an insatiable hunger for the ichor of life and beast alike, supping even from the fonts of death magic itself. Thus was he transformed, a visage monstrous and Goliath, until at last his kin were forced to bring him low. Nagash's decree was stern. "By my troth, Ushoran, ye shall be brought to the temple of resurrection, the shroud cage, that thy mind may be made hale." Yet, whispers malign suggest this was but a facade, a torture to strip Ushoran of any semblance of his former grace, for Nagash bore spite for his herald's hidden madness. Within the shroud cage, Ushoran dreamed of courts lost and love forsaken, until Sigmar's wrath set him free, not by Nagash's will, but through the devastation wrought by the God King's pursuit of vengeance. It was Sigmar's hand, not Nagash's, that freed Ushoran, albeit into a reality shattered beyond repair. Thus did our king flee, cast adrift from the gaze of gods and mortals alike into the embrace of his newfound kingdom. A realm born of delusion, yes, but of a nobility untarnished by the petty machinations of deities. Here, in our grand hall, his spirit endures, as we, his loyal subjects, continue to enact the grandeur and tragedy of his tale. So, my cherished guests, as we feast upon the stories of old, let us remember the Carrion King not as the monster tales might decree, but as the eternal sovereign of our hearts, whose grand illusions shield us from the harshness of a reality unkind. In his name, we thrive, we conquer, we feast, for in Ushoran, we find our truth, our nobility, and our eternal liege. Ah, esteemed assembly, as our tale weaves through the tapestry of time, let us delve deeper into the heart of our legacy, into the very essence that binds us to the will of our sovereign, Ushoran. Though the physical form of our king had been vanquished from sight, his spirit, a beacon of courtly grace and noble ambition, persisted, igniting a flame within the hearts of his most devoted courtiers. These forsaken scions, cast adrift by fate's cruel tempest, bore within them the indelible mark of Ushoran's grandeur. In their sorrow, they became the harbingers of a new dawn, the architects of the flesh-eater courts, known in hushed tones amongst the unenlightened as abhorrence. With claws rending their own flesh in mourning, they traversed the realms, a symphony of woe and yearning trailing in their wake. Yet, even in their despair, the allure of Ushoran's dream of a court resplendent and pure guided them. In their wanderings, amidst ruins and desolation, they encountered mortals whose souls flickered with the potential to embrace a higher calling. To these souls, the abhorrence extended Ushoran's boon, an invitation to partake in the creation of a kingdom where loyalty, honor, and the bonds of fealty shone brighter than any jewel. These mortals, ravaged by famine and strife, had turned to the grim banquet of the battlefield to sate their hunger. The abhorrence, bearing the visage and nobility of their lost king, saw not the desperation of these acts, but a yearning for purpose, for a place within a grander design. Let us take these wretched souls, they proclaimed, and bestow upon them the dignity of our courtly love. Let us share with them the warmth of brotherhood, the sanctity of our table, where bread is broken and wine flows freely. And so, with crimson ropes of fealty binding them, these newly forged knights of the flesh-eater courts ventured forth, a gallant retinue born of tragedy, yet undeterred in their quest for chivalric perfection. In every corner of the realms where despair held dominion, they offered sanctuary, a promise of belonging to those lost amidst the chaos of an uncaring world. These courts, risen from the ashes of sorrow, stood as a testament to the undying will of Ushoran. Each feast, a homage to the enduring bonds of kinship and loyalty that united them. Each battle, a declaration of their noble intent to shield the weak and vanquish the corrupt. In the hearts of these valiant souls, the essence of Ushoran's dream flourished. An eternal kingdom where every ghoul, every wretched being brought low by fate, could find solace and purpose. Thus, my cherished kin, as we gather under the mantle of our shared heritage, let us remember the origin of our noble plight. For we are the flesh-eater courts, born of Ushoran's indomitable spirit, united in our quest to reclaim the glory of a bygone era. In the face of adversity, let our resolve be unwavering, for we are the true custodians of honor, the heralds of a brighter dawn yet to come. Let us raise our goblets high in honor of Ushoran, our eternal king, whose vision guides us still through the darkest of nights. Ah, most exalted assembly, still your tongues and hold your breaths, for into our midst strides a presence of such solemn grandeur that the very shadows bow in deference. Behold, the embodiment of our fleshly lineage, the paragon of our nocturnal nobility, the apex of our accursed hunger, Ushoran, the Carrion King. Mark well the figure that now graces our feast, each lumbering step a testament to his indomitable will. Cloaked in the splendor of shadows, his visage is the countenance of terror to the uninitiated, yet a visage of paternal benevolence to us, his devoted court. His mantle, woven from the darkness of Shyish and stained in the blood of countless conquests, billows like the penance of a conqueror of worlds. Upon his mighty skull rests a crown not of gold and gemstone, of bone and spirit, each a remnant of triumph so great their tales echo through the ages. In his grasp, he wields a scepter, topped by the skull of a foe vanquished, a macabre relic that whispers of the might of he who carries it. His gauntlets, crafted from the coldest steel, are as the claws of the Reaper, ready to clutch at the soul of any who dare defy his rule. His gaze, oh, his gaze. Within those abyssal orbs swirls the wisdom of ages, the sorrow of empires fallen, and the unquenchable thirst for dominion. As he approaches his rightful seat at the head of our blood feast, the Crypt Guard, his most trusted knights, part the throng in silent reverence, their armored forms standing sentinel over the glory that is our Carrion king. I beseech thee, honored guests, rise as one to pay homage to the sovereign who defies the cruel march of time, who stands as the bulwark against the encroaching chaos of the realms. Cast aside your mortal apprehensions, for here lies the truth of our existence, the majesty of the flesh-eater courts made manifest. Bow your heads, kneel if you must, and let your souls sing praises to Ushoran, the undying ruler of our feasting horde. Now, as silence falls and reverence swells within our hall, let us resume the chronicle of our king, for his tale is our history, our creed, and the very essence of our being. Listen and remember, for in the words that follow lies the path to understanding the eternal cycle of feasting and glory that binds us all to Ushoran, our immortal liege. Hark! Let the feast's merriment wane for a moment, for the tale I spin, entwined with the fates of us all, bears the weight of truth and the somber cloak of warning. As our liege, the great Ushoran, takes his seat at the head of this bounteous repast, let it be known that not all that is whispered in the dark corners of the realms holds the essence of veracity. Attend closely, my brethren, and you, the unaccustomed visitors within our venerable gathering, heed this. Tales of Ushoran's genesis, his noble beginnings, and the foundations of our grand courts have oft been marred by the tongues of non-believers. Those blinded by the light of day speak ill of our heritage, casting shadows of doubt upon the most resplendent of truths. These dissenters, envious of the bond we share under the noble gaze of our Carrion king, would have you believe in sordid fictions. They claim Ushoran's fairness was but a facade, an illusory veil over a ravenous beast of the night. They dare to suggest that our courtly grace is naught but the deranged fantasies of a blood-addled mind. But I say unto you, my kindred, and to you, our esteemed guests, cast away the slanderous libel. For in the heart of every mordant, in the soul of every ghoul that has been lifted from squalor to stand among the ranks of our nobility, beats the certainty of our noble cause. Our king, our sire, Ushoran, though they claim him mad and monstrous, is the truest of us all, the most just and the most valiant. Let not the deceitful prattle of mortals taint the splendor of our existence. Let not their calumnies shadow the brilliance of our court. For they know not the ecstasy of the hunt, the exultation of the feast, nor the loyalty that binds us to our king and to each other. They stand outside the circle of our moonlit dance, peering in with eyes full of fear, unable to comprehend the beauty of our truth. So, as we revel in the tales of our king's glory, remember, the world outside these hallowed halls is fraught with misgivings and lies. Steel yourselves against such falsehoods, and let the wisdom of Ushoran be your guide through the mists of deceit. For in our unity, in our fealty, and in our shared blood lies the strength to rebuff the poisoned barbs of skepticism. Now, let us turn back to the banquet, to the feast of flesh and memory. For tonight, we celebrate not only our survival, but the enduring legacy of the Carrion king, Ushoran. May his reign be everlasting, and his table ever plentiful. My noble kin, feast-goers and wanderers from realms afar, cast aside the veil of doubt and embrace the hallowed truth as our illustrious Ushoran, the Mortarch of delusion and our beloved Carrion king, presides over this banquet of flesh and fate. The tale I recount is steeped in tragedy and triumph, a saga woven with the gossamer threads of grandeur and the unyielding chains of bloodlust. Before us sits the font of our kind's fervor, Ushoran, the undying flame from which our fervent madness springs, a monarch whose tale sings of the gravest sorrow and the most crimson of atrocities. In ancient epochs, by the will of Nagash, the undying king, 3 champions arose to still the restless spirits of Shyish. Among them was our Ushoran the Bold, whose visage to mortals was as a liege of regal splendor. He was a beacon of the virtuous rule, an exemplar of sovereign grace, whose very presence drew forth the lifeblood of the willing, a testament to his captivating magnificence. As the Mortarch, Ushoran heralded the word of Nagash, promising dignity in death and vowing to uphold the sacred cycle of mortality. With his sword and talons, the somber paladin struck down any desecrator of this hallowed oath, earning the adoration of mortals who revered him as the pinnacle of chivalry. Yet, bear in mind, the tales whispered in the cold night are tainted by those who never felt the warmth of Ushoran's benevolence. They speak of a veil of majesty, a mere illusion masking a voracious predator, ever hungering for flesh and death. They conjure visions of the shroud cage as a chamber of torment, where Nagash's spite sought to mar Ushoran's essence and strip him of his noble guise. Dismiss these aspersions as slander, the venomous spit of envy and ignorance. In his convalescence within the shroud cage, Ushoran dreamt of courts that were once radiant with the light of 1,000 stars. But liberation came not from Nagash's grace, but from the reckless savagery of Sigmar, the God King, whose wrathful retribution shattered the shroud cage and fractured the Mortarch's sanity beyond the ken of gods and mortals. And thus did Ushoran flee, a sovereign without a throne, a father without his progeny. From the depths of his forsaken torment sprang forth the flesh-eater courts, our grand conclave of honor and fealty, our bastion against the relentless march of time and the prying eyes of those who cannot fathom the depths of our devotion. So, let us raise our voices in reverence for Ushoran, our undying liege, whose legacy is not a tapestry of lies, but a hymn of eternal loyalty and the unshakable will of our kind. As we revel in the narratives of our past, let the splendor of the flesh-eater courts illuminate the darkest corners of doubt. For in Ushoran's tale lies the purest form of our existence, our creed, our eternal banquet under the watchful moon. Ah, my cherished congregation, as the moon waxes above our grand convocation, let us discern the stark contrasts within the tapestry of our lineage. For the narrative of our Carrion king and his scions is a multifaceted chronicle, where light and shadow dance in a never-ending masquerade. From the noblest of ancient vampire bloodlines were born the original abhorrent kings, who, forsaken by their own for their ravenous feasts upon the dead, became pariahs wandering the realms. In their wake, they left trails of bedlam and grandeur, a testament to the chaos that birthed the first generation of abhorrent ghoul kings. Theirs was a journey of transformation from the bright visage of order into the dusk of perceived madness. Once, our sovereign Ushoran, Sumero's summer king, the Blood Rose Prince, roamed the realms as the beloved emissary of Nagash, the undying king. His was a mission of justice, an architect of sanctified shrines and regal mausoleums. He brought solace to the ailing, mercy to the oppressed, and rightful vengeance upon the despot. Where Ushoran tread, life thrived in the balance of death, and his arrival heralded by a carpet of grave rose petals was both a blessing and a harbinger of doom to those who would dare disturb the equilibrium of existence. Yet, the narrative of our lineage speaks of an ignoble fall, shrouded in the mist of bygone ages. Cast from the grace of Nagash, twisted by an unspeakable curse, Ushoran the Handsome was reborn in a visage of horror and fury. Where once he bestowed blessings, now only the bitter gall of his malice was offered, leaving behind a trail of ruin where empires and legions once flourished. This affront to the god of death summoned the wrath of Nagash, who unleashed his Mortarchs, the most devout and fearsome of his servants. In a crusade of retribution, they sundered the once loyal king's forces and dragged Ushoran before their master. Yet Nagash, in his unfathomable wisdom, did not deliver unto Ushoran the finality of oblivion. Instead, he entombed him within the shroud cage, a prison of lies and broken oaths, where reflections of his past grandeur tormented his very essence. The shroud cage was both sepulchre and crucible. Within its walls, Ushoran's mind was unraveled, his noble visage marred by the cacophony of his own fractured memories. Aye, in this chrysalis of madness, the king was to remain, bereft of his court, bereft of his glory, until fate, in the form of Sigmar's fury, inadvertently set the stage for his next act. Now, let us ponder upon these accounts. Are they not but the many faces of our truth, a saga smeared by the subjective gaze of those who narrate it? Is our existence not a challenge to the narratives of the world, a defiance of the lines drawn by those who claim dominion over death and life? In our courts, we hold these contrasts not as contradictions, but as the complexities that define us, as the very threads that weave the grand tapestry of the flesh-eater courts. So let us, with reverence, drink deep from the chalice of these stories. For in their nuances, in their stark differences, we find the unyielding spirit of Ushoran, our Carrion king, and the undying essence of our line. For we are the abhorrent progeny of greatness, and our saga shall not be stifled by the unyielding chains of a single truth. In our remembrance, in our telling, we find our power, our purpose, and our endless feast. Behold, the tale I unfurl before thee, one steeped in the murk of ancient times, when from the noblest of bloodlines arose our Carrion king, the primordial font of our lineage's voracious glory. Gather round and heed these words, for the journey of our sovereign Lord traverses the boundaries of sanity and sacrament. In the twilight of forgotten ages, when Nagash's empire loomed vast and unchallenged, there walked Ushoran the Bold, favored by the undying king. With justice as his shield and the promise of the hereafter as his herald, Ushoran was the hand of Nagash, the benevolent harbinger of death's sweet embrace. He was revered, his arrival heralded with grave rose petals, a lord as adored as he was feared, a purveyor of mercy and a righteous scourge upon the malevolent. But let us draw back the shroud of deceit, my kin, for Ushoran's tale is marked by tribulation as profound as the void of Shyish itself. Once the paragon of chivalry and grace, he was cast down by his master, twisted into a harbinger of ruin. No longer did he walk as savior, but as the apex predator, his gifts of mercy now twisted into offerings of savage retribution. Nagash, in his infinite dominion, would suffer no such affront. His mortarchs, in a cataclysm of death, quelled the rebellion of their kin, binding Ushoran within the shroud cage, a bastille where echoes of false promises gnawed at his very soul. Thus was our king tormented, his grandeur warped into a grotesque parody of his former majesty. Yet the caprice of fate through the god King Sigmar's wrath shattered Ushoran's prison. Liberated from his captivity, Ushoran, now the first abhorrent, rebuilt his court amidst the ruins of a world torn asunder. His blood, potent with the essence of lunacy, bestowed upon his knights a fragment of his grand delusion. Together they sallied forth once more, a court of darkness, bringing not salvation but the fell kiss of their lord's derangement to all they encountered. In the age when Nagash lay vanquished by the Everchosen, Ushoran's empire burgeoned, its roots reaching deep into the heart of Shyish and beyond, through the realm gates to lands distant and estranged. While civilizations crumbled before the onslaught of chaos, the flesh-eaters burgeoned, their ranks swelled by the Forsaken, their hunger sharpened into a weapon most dire. The Age of Chaos saw the Carrion king vanish like a shadow at dawn, his tale silenced amidst the cacophony of the dark god's ascendancy. Yet his influence persisted, a blight upon the soul of the realms, his loyalty and purpose obscured by the mists of insanity. Some courts, spawned from his tainted legacy, ally with Nagash's legions. Others revile them with ferocity unhinged. Those closest in blood to Ushoran linger in the ruins of his ancient dominion, their delusions as potent as the king's madness. And thus, the first court rose from the ashes of betrayal, forged by the hand of the Carrion king. Lord Marrowbroth, the shield of the sovereign, gathered the elite mordants beneath his tattered banner. Baron Gizzard, the silent stalker of the shadows, marshaled his ghouls to prowl the borders of their burgeoning realm. Together, they wrought a domain of dread and majesty, the forebears of our courts, their histories entombed beneath layers of time and madness. Of these first abhorrents, legends whisper that they roam the realms as archregents, while some stand by Ushoran's side to this very day, ever loyal to the throne of bones and blood. Their chronicles, obscured by the veils of madness and time, echo with the undying glory of the flesh-eater courts. So, my bloodkin and honored guests, let this be known. The truth of Ushoran's tale is known only to Nagash, the great necromancer. But we, his progeny, carry the essence of his story in our veins, in our hunger, and in the echo of our roar. We are the flesh-eater courts, risen from the depths of despair, united by the madness of our abhorrent, our feasts a testament to the unyielding spirit of the Carrion king. Let us revel in the majesty of our legacy, for in our courts, Ushoran's dream lives eternal. Ah, the feast dwindles, the bones are picked clean, and the final drop of the night's libation quivers at the chalice's brim. Rise, rise to your feet, ye esteemed throng, for our Carrion king, Ushoran, rises. His form casts a shadow that bathes us in a sanctity that even the moon dares not breach. A hush falls, as deep and encompassing as the void from whence we sprang. With a voice that rumbles like the very earth beneath our feet, Ushoran, the eternal sovereign of our court, decrees a toast of such gravitas that even the stars pause in their celestial paths to listen. Here's to the loyal subjects of this grand court, to the knights of bone and sinew, to the gallants whose deeds are as resplendent as the full moon's glow, to you, our guests, whose courage has brought you to the heart of our realm, to dine at our table and bask in the majesty of our kind. Like and subscribe, for in doing so, you pledge fealty to our cause, you embrace the grandeur of our legacy, you join the ranks of those who revel in the moonlit dance of night's sweet embrace. Lest you neglect this sacred duty, know this: Ushoran's wrath is as boundless as the hunger that gnaws at our bellies. Fail to honor our king's command, and you may well find yourself an honored guest at our next feast, not seated at the table, but upon it. At his command, a rustling stirs the silence, as countless ghouls, our kin and comrades, emerge from the darkened nooks and crumbled crevices of our hallowed hall. They are the shadows that move when you dare not look, the whispers that flutter at the edge of hearing. Their eyes glint with anticipation, their hunger an echo of our own. So raise your glasses, my noble assembly. Raise them high against the backdrop of the night's shroud. For in this gesture, you seal your pact with the flesh-eater courts. Your applause, your acclaim is the chorus that heralds our glory. To the Carrion king, may his reign be as unending as the void from which he was wrought. To us, his progeny, may our feasts be ever plentiful and our court ever grand. And to you, our listeners, may you always find solace in the embrace of our court. Or find yourselves eternally embraced by the ghoulish denizens that await their next feast. Drink deep, for this toast is not just a mere gesture. It is a covenant written in the stars, sealed by the moon, and watched over by the countless eyes that hunger in the darkness. To like and subscribe is to walk in the light of our king's favor. To do otherwise is to walk into the maw of eternal night. Now, as the night wanes and the first hints of dawn threaten the horizon, let us conclude with the resounding cry of our people. To the Carrion king, and let the night be filled with the sound of clinking glasses and the rustling of sated shadows, awaiting their next grand feast.